About 5 years ago, Jim Hamilton bought a gun. It seems he had been having trouble with his wife, but not the kind you think. Jim, you see, was superintendent of maintenance at Dawson and Egglesby, and he was telephone drunk. That's something like being punch drunk, only more painful. But to find out why he bought the gun, let's go back a little farther into Jim's life. Whenever the phone rang, it was usually for him, and it was usually trouble, and it was usually at the wrong time.
Hello? Oh, no, not again. All right. I'll be right over.
That was the third time that they had to postpone their wedding anniversary. Then another time...
To you, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Daddy. Happy birthday to you.
Come on, Dad, let's see if you can blow them all out at once.
Wendy Jim, they used to call me. Watch this.
Oh,
Hello. Yeah? The what? The whole department shut down. Okay. Call Oscar, will you? All right. I'll be over right away.
Finally got to where Jim was too bell-happy for his own good. Doc couldn't find anything wrong with him, but thought it would be a good thing for Jim to take up a hobby. Something to get his mind off those bells. So that's why he bought the gun. He'd always wanted to hunt ducks.
Dad, how do you hunt ducks, huh?
Well, you sit in a blind like this, and you hold your gun, something like this. And then, pretty soon, you start hearing something, and you watch. And there they come. And then you follow them over. Hello? All right, I'll be right over.
Jim loved that gun, but it didn't seem to work. The idea of having it, that is. Jim didn't know whether the gun worked or not. He never got a chance to work it. Telephone always rang every time he started out.
Yeah? Yeah, all right. I'll be right over.
Back at the office late that night, emergency breakdown, of course. Jim got kind of determined not to miss this duck season completely. So he picked out 3 days that he was going to insulate against every possible kind of trouble by scheduling his maintenance work. Everything he could think of. Jim was going to get that plant in tip-top perfect shape by doing just as much maintenance as could possibly be crammed into 30 days with overtime. All that trouble they'd been having was not only hurting him, it also wasn't doing Dawson and Egglesby any good. So they oiled and greased, and they overhauled, and they adjusted, and they tightened, Everyone pitched in on his own and did everything he could to get Jim off on that hunting trip. By quitting time the day before Jim was to leave, the plant looked like a battle cruiser ready for the Admiral, and it was running real smooth.
Any trouble around here, I don't know where it's coming from.
Ain't anything in the whole place that needs fixing. I know for a fact that drive motor's been greased. I know at least 2 different guys that I saw doing it.
You're finally going on a hunting trip, eh, Jim?
I sure am.
Let's see how good you are. Start at 2 o'clock.
Hey, the drive motor.
Doing a lot of maintenance didn't seem to be the answer either. So Jim decided to call the General Electric service shop. And the GE man said he would come out right away. Jim sounded like he really needed help, not just with this emergency, but with his whole outlook on maintenance. So George felt it was also a good time to talk about productive maintenance to help Jim put an end to those expensive breakdowns. Now, you might wonder what productive maintenance has to do with expensive breakdowns like the one George was going to help Jim with. Well, to begin with, productive maintenance is not a new way of doing maintenance. It's simply a new way General Electric developed for deciding what maintenance to do and when. It is called productive maintenance because it reduces product cost in 2 ways. First, it increases the effectiveness of routine maintenance, thus giving you more for your maintenance dollar. Second, it increases productivity not only by reducing the frequency of breakdowns, but also by reducing the downtime losses from the few breakdowns that do occur. The productive maintenance method was accepted first in the kinds of places where breakdowns are likely to be most extensive and therefore most costly, such as paper mills. When anything stops rolling, production stops. Steel mills the same way. Hot metal won't stay hot while repairs are going on, so productive maintenance is used to reduce downtime. Almost any of the chemical industries are in the same boat. And now, productive maintenance is finding application throughout all industry, not just because it is desirable to increase the effectiveness of routine maintenance, but for the more important reason that we must hold downtime to a minimum whenever the shutdown of one bottleneck operation might shut down all the others that follow. So it's easy to see why GE would be carrying the torch for an idea like that. They manufacture quite a bit of apparatus that industry must depend on, like electric motors for one. And they believe that telling this story is part of giving dependable service. They also supply renewal parts for all the apparatus they make. And naturally, they want people to have the right parts always on hand when they're needed. And the General Electric service shops around the country are in the business of helping industry to get the most and the best service out of its productive equipment on a planned basis. And all told, they figure that it's a lot more satisfying for everyone to be doing business with people who aren't having trouble than with people who are, like Jim.
I don't know what I'd do without you guys, George. Pretty nice business for you, though.
Yeah, but it's not the kind of business we like.
What, at these overtime rates?
At any kind of rate. We don't like emergencies any more than you do. Our job is to help people operate without emergencies, not with them. We want maintenance to be productive, not expensive.
Productive maintenance. You told me about that once. File cabinets. What I need is men with 4 arms, X-ray eyes, and a crystal ball in every tool kit.
One crystal ball is all you need, and that's what those file cabinets would be.
Oh, George, I can't go into a program like that. We're already doing as much maintenance around here as we possibly can without adding any more. Look, I got a note here from old Eaglebeak about last month's cost. I got a whole bale of them here where he's hollering at me about the downtime. You just can't play
Jim,
it.
you may not know it, but you've got a top-notch setup and good men. I get into lots of maintenance departments, and you've got just as reasonable a management as anybody could want.
Not enough to let me do any more maintenance. If I went to old Eaglebeak...
Suppose you went to him with an offer to do just as little maintenance as possible.
with any request for more... You nuts?
Why on earth should you, or old Eaglebeak, or anybody, want to do as much maintenance as possible?
Well, to put off these danged expensive breakdowns. I don't know which minute of which day, which thing, in which bay in this whole mess of machinery will blow next without a crystal ball. Now, if you can tell me where I can get a crystal... Hey, what would be in those file cabinets you've been telling me about?
Well, the first step in organizing a productive maintenance program is to make sure that you have certain information you want to maintain. Where it is, what it does, and what to do with it. You have to know such things as nameplate information. That's why it's there. And you also should know its approximate age. And of course, if there's anything bad or unusual about its working conditions, you should have that made a matter of record. Now, the next step in productive maintenance, after you have all that kind of information assembled on each piece of equipment, is to make some evaluations and add your decisions to the records. How much routine maintenance and what kind is warranted by the cost of the equipment, its age, and the beating it takes in service. Based on this decision, you select a frequency of inspection and note it along with the first inspection date to be scheduled. Then you're ready for the third step, to establish a routine operating control system. And here's what you do. Determine what renewal parts will be needed in stock. General Electric, by the way, will do that for you. Dig up all those parts numbers on any GE equipment you have in service. The resulting entries, of course, are the numbers of those parts. Now you have all the information you need for setting up a permanent directory of equipment on neatly typed cards. There are many good card systems which also include convenient ways of signaling inspection dates so that you can see them coming up. This directory of equipment is one of the two files used in productive maintenance. And the other file is simply any good inventory control system for keeping track of your renewal parts. And those two file cabinets together are your crystal ball.
Well, how do you make them work?
The same way you make any crystal ball work. You look into it to see what to do and when to do it. That's what records are for. Here, put this ruler on the edge of the table. Now push it out over the side and see how many inches you can make stick out. Whoops, too far. Try it again.
I hope you're enjoying yourself.
Go on.
It'll fall off.
How'd you know that? Crystal ball?
I saw where it fell off before. You mean those cards will tell us just how far we can push a piece of equipment before it breaks down?
Suppose you knew from your records that that ruler was being pushed outward at the rate of about 1 inch a month. And based on past experience, you knew that unattended, it would fall off at the end of about 7.5 months. And all you'd do for 7 months is watch the calendar, the time. But about that time, you'd want to check the ruler for direct reading.
9 inches.
Time for a change. Routine maintenance. Let's do this. Now we can go ahead. But the further we go toward a new and unknown limit, the more important it becomes to inspect the condition of the thing itself. So we watch the ruler more closely and the calendar less.
That's as far as it'll go.
You learned that by inspecting the ruler. Time for a complete overhaul.
Well, I'll be doggone. It's so simple. You can put off things until they ought to be done instead of trying to do everything all the time.
Exactly. You can if you keep your records up to date.
How much work is that?
Well, it's merely a matter of continuing to record things as you do them. The file on each piece of equipment should logically include a record of inspections. And it is profitable to use this card itself as the work order for the inspection. The man who does the actual inspection records his findings on a card and returns it to the clerk. If the report indicates a need for extra routine work of any kind, the clerk can issue a work order at once. Then he replaces the inspection card in the file and resets the inspection signal. After any such extra work has been completed and the work order costed, that information too should be entered in the record. There's a very useful reason for entering these costs. Steadily increasing figures are the best indicators that a piece of equipment is wearing out and should be overhauled or replaced. And as you use the equipment directory for controlling or recording maintenance work, you soon convert the directory itself into a valuable history file, which makes it a still better indicator of the right amount of routine maintenance to do.
Yeah, I get the routine, but what about the mess I'm in now? I've got an expensive breakdown on my hands. And George, don't tell me I'd never have a breakdown, even if I had my routine maintenance under control.
No, I won't do that. Breakdowns or failures can happen unexpectedly no matter what you do. But let me show you now the steps that really make productive maintenance pay off. The steps that guarantee the lowest possible cost no matter what your failure is. Critical equipment failures, like the one you're having now, are the ones in which the cost of downtime is more than the cost of repair. Because of their importance, these items of equipment deserve special attention. This is the next step to install complete productive maintenance. I like to call it the payoff phase of the program. To begin this step, you'll have to decide what equipment has vital operating importance. Its actual cost is forgotten for the moment. The significant question now is, what do we have that has to keep running? Then you have to look it over. What shape is it in? Now, here is an opportunity for us to serve you by helping with the inspection of your important electrical equipment. And our maintenance specialists are happy to do it. The more so because the service shop itself figures into the next thing you do, which is to decide and enter into the records an overhaul date calculated to be in advance of any probability of failure. This overhaul date, chosen for a weekend or normal shutdown period to avoid production loss, wants not only to be entered in your file, but also to be cleared with the GE service shop so that we can have men, materials, and machines ready at the scheduled time. And that takes care of breakdown avoidance through scheduled overhaul. But no one can say for sure that a breakdown won't occur. So the next step is to make sure before it's happened that it will cost as little as possible. After it has happened, it's too late. Let me tell you about the one I ran into not long ago. This was a paper mill with a low-speed DC drive motor that was due for an armature rewind. The rub was that the machine ran continuously all day and all night, 7 days a week. So they had no shutdown time for scheduled overhaul. The only thing they could do was make sure that when the failure came, it would cost them as little as possible. The figures are quite interesting. In the first place, the downtime loss on the machine would be $700 an hour. In consultation with their GE maintenance specialist, they learned that with no parts carried in stock, it would take 10 days to make and install the coils and to get the motor back into operation, with the repairs costing $12,730. But here's the catch. The downtime loss would be a whopping $168,000. Total failure cost, $180,730. Next, they found out that if they would stock a complete set of coils for $4,664, the repair time would drop to 6 days and would cost only $5,900. But the downtime would still be $100,800. Total, $111,364. But that still wasn't a very happy prospect. So they considered the cost of stocking a complete armature. That would come to $25,600, rather high for a renewal part. But it was partly offset by a repair cost of only $850 for the 7 hours required to switch armatures. And 7 hours downtime came to only $4,900, which would slash the total failure cost all the way down to $31,350. And they still had the old armature left over, which could be repaired for a third the cost of a new one. Now, of course, they might have gone all the way and stocked a complete new motor, but that turned out to be too expensive again. In this instance, the obvious chance is the armature. Figures vary from case to case, but the difference a few well-calculated critical renewal parts can make in total failure costs is very surprising.
Do you mean to say that if we had been working out of these confounded cabinets, the plant would have been rolling already? And we could have avoided that loss of $300 an hour that is costing us right now?
If that's what your downtime is. But I don't think it would have quite worked out like that.
Uh-oh. Here comes the catch. What is it?
Well, first you would have had an overhaul date established, and then you would have been keeping evaluations of the motor's condition up to date through regular inspections. And in this way...
Skip it. You're right. No use crying over spilt milk, or I'd have been drowned in tears years ago. George, can you come back in the morning and help me to organize these points so I can take them upstairs and bounce them off old Eaglebeak? They can't kill a guy for trying.
Well, I'll be glad to, Jim. It's very simple. There are only 5 steps. First, you make sure you have the information. Gather data on what you have, where it is, what it does. Second, evaluate for routine maintenance by deciding how much care is warranted by the cost of the equipment. Third, establish your routine operating control system. Obtain renewal parts recommendations, set up the records, and begin to increase the overall effectiveness of equipment maintenance. Now you're ready for step 4, the payoff, which is to evaluate for critical maintenance. First, you decide what equipment has vital operating importance. Then you determine its condition. How long is it likely to run without a breakdown? And your evaluation is complete when you have determined what critical renewal parts to stock. Step 5 is to establish your critical maintenance program. Incorporate these new controls into your already operating routine program, scheduling overhauls which minimize the likelihood of breakdowns, stocking critical parts which minimize the cost of downtime. Add these operations to the scheduling of routine inspection and repair for overall reduction of maintenance costs, and you have a complete, productive maintenance program.
Yeah, it's as clear as crystal now, George. We should have had this a long time ago. Maybe I wouldn't be such an old man. That's such a young age.
Well, the only thing you're going to have to worry about from now on in is how to carry those ducks home, because you're going to get to go duck hunting at last.
That's what you think. No, I have to bag old Eaglebeak first before I can start bagging the ducks.
Well, all that happened about 5 years ago, as I said. Today, Jim brings his limit home every time he goes hunting, which is quite often. And so far as I know, the Hamiltons celebrate their anniversaries right on time. You see, not only did he get to install a productive maintenance program, but also it works. Bob, the clerk, is certainly worth his salary. He not only watches the files, he also issues the work orders and schedules each day's work the day before so the crews can start out when they come to work instead of at 10:30 the way it used to be. And he sees to it that all the prices of things and cost computations are made and get into the files where they should be. The overall effectiveness of maintenance has gone way up. The stockroom is a model of efficiency, and Walter not only knows that everything anyone requisitions will be there, he also knows where it is. He knows particularly where to find the critical renewal parts that have been chosen to keep failure costs at a minimum. When the overhauls are done, of course they are done in the GE service shop, where they have the men and equipment and materials and experience to do things right. It's a pretty good place for sick motors to end up. In fact, it's a pretty good place to end up this story, too. But wait. I suppose you're wondering how I come to know so much about this. Well, my name is Egglesby, of the firm of Dawson and Egglesby. Old Eaglebeak, the boys call me, when I'm not listening. And if you're surprised that I okayed the tab for the installation of productive maintenance, then I'm surprised at you. Management is always looking for a way to increase the effectiveness of anything that will increase productivity. And productive maintenance is one of them.